Story 1. The Skin Thief. Autumn had stained the sky the color of old blood over the quiet town of Asheville, where death was the only thing that kept the local economy alive. Margaret Harlow, a mortuary technician with practiced hands and an obsession with surgical precision, spent her days in cold silence beneath the humming lights of Grayson's funeral home. She never flinched at the dead. She admired them. Puzzles with all the answers visible, if you knew where to look. But lately, something had begun to trouble her: the corpses. They were flawless. Internally untouched. Bones unbroken. Eyes clear. But always, without exception, their skin was gone. Entirely peeled away, not in shreds, but like a surgeon's careful removal. Clean. Seamless. Deliberate. And whoever was doing it never left blood. It was victim 4. A young man named Theo with surgical pins still embedded from a healed leg fracture, who made Margaret pause mid-embalming. His body was perfect. Too perfect. No skin, but no blood loss. No defensive wounds. No struggle. She reviewed the other files. Each victim had a surgery in their past. Something that had left behind leftover tissue, discarded skin, or scars. Margaret's heart sank. She had undergone facial reconstruction surgery 3 years ago after a car accident. Her old skin, the damaged, stretched tissue they had removed, had been destroyed. Or so she thought. A week later, Margaret noticed bruises along her torso, shaped like handprints. Faint, internal, as if something was testing her from the inside. Her joints twitched involuntarily, her fingers moving before she commanded them. Sleep became erratic. She heard her own voice whispering things when she was alone. She ran a biopsy on her own arm. The cells weren't hers. They were mimicking her. Skin cells with different DNA, but identical structure. Growing beneath her skin like a second epidermis. That night, the body of a local nurse arrived. No skin. A hospital bracelet still around the ankle. A note scrawled inside it in faded ink. "She's growing into me." Margaret broke protocol and hacked the hospital's archived surgical waste logs. All 5 victims had undergone some kind of skin removal procedure. All had stayed at the same hospital. Hers. Then she saw it. A 6th file. Margaret Harlow. Listed among surgical discards. The date? 3 days ago. Someone had requested her removed skin from 3 years ago. Requested. Not stolen. The signature line was blank. She pulled security footage. It had been wiped. But a single frame remained, a figure in hospital scrubs, facing away from the camera. The screen flickered. The back of the figure's head looked like hers. Margaret tried to escape Asheville, but her muscles no longer obeyed. They pulsed and twitched like a puppet. Strings were buried beneath the flesh. When she looked into the mirror, her reflection sometimes lagged. Staring longer. Blinking slower. She cut into her thigh with a scalpel. Inside the wound, she saw layers of her own tissue. And something else. Not organs. Not blood. Threads. Flesh knitting itself together, looping, braiding, sealing. It wasn't a parasite. It wasn't an infection. It was her skin. The old skin. The discarded flesh she thought destroyed. It had found her. It was becoming her again. And it was learning. A final attempt at escape brought her back to the hospital, to the now abandoned surgical theater where her old face had been taken from her. Inside, the air was thick with formalin and shadow. Her reflection in the polished surgical lamps no longer moved as she did. She touched the mirror. It smiled back. From the shadows emerged a woman with her eyes, her hands, her posture, but smoother, seamless, flawless. A Margaret without scars. Without history. A Margaret born of perfected flesh. I only needed a little time, it said with her voice, to remember how to move. The next day, Margaret Harlow returned to work. Smiling. Skin pristine. Eyes calm. She greeted the director, filed paperwork, and resumed her shift in the embalming room. No one noticed the subtle differences. The perfect symmetry of her face, the unnatural smoothness of her arms. No one questioned when the number of bodies arriving began to increase. No one noticed the absence of skin. But beneath the mortuary, something new was being stitched from what was discarded. A second body. A third. A fourth. A hive of perfect flesh, growing silently. And in the dark, something else opened its eyes. It looked just like her. But it wasn't smiling. Story 2. The Bone Orchard. Witherborough was the kind of place that whispered when the wind blew, where mist crawled in the daylight and the sun rarely smiled. Encircled by steep hills and dense pine, the village lived by one law. For food to grow, something must be sown that remembers death. No one spoke it aloud anymore. Not since the incident in 1927. But everyone knew. Crops didn't grow in Witherborough unless human bones were buried beneath the soil. Old farmers would break the earth and find teeth, finger joints, even ribs. Not ancient relics, but fresh. Bleached by time, yet never weathered. No animal disturbed them. No insects touched them. The villagers buried them in silence, and the wheat grew tall. Tomatoes burst ripe. Life flourished from rot. Every family had a secret place they dug at night. No one asked where the bones came from. Elric Malloran was born during the first failed harvest in 30 years. His mother, Lona, refused to speak of his father. She kept to herself, a wild-eyed woman who sold herbs and poultices that never quite worked. People called her Green Lona, but not kindly. She didn't mind. Elric was pale and sickly. His chest caved slightly, like something was pressing inward from the inside. At 6, he began to have fevers. His skin blistered in the summer sun. He claimed he could hear the ground whisper when he walked barefoot. By 12, he started bleeding from strange places. His chest. His back. Doctors called it a bone disorder. Extra calcification. Overgrowth. But when they tried to remove the protrusions, they found something strange. The growths weren't random. They were organized. Rows of teeth on his sternum. Thorn-like ribs curling outward under the skin of his shoulders. As if something intelligent was designing them. His mother grew quieter with each doctor visit. On his 17th birthday, Elric awoke with roots in his dreams. Thick, pale tendrils that coiled like worms through black soil. He could feel them stretching from beneath his bed, coiling through the walls, tugging at the meat in his arms. That night, he confronted Lona. She wept. And then she told him the truth. The fields were dying, she said. The land wanted more. It wanted something alive. Something to feed from. When he was just a newborn, she had followed an old rite found in a torn grimoire bound in leather and flaked blood. It called for a bone seed, made from marrow, ash, and something older. A relic unearthed from beneath the orchard's blackest tree. She dissolved the bone and fed it to him in his milk. It rooted in him. And the next year, the crops flourished again. You were the soil, she whispered. My little garden. Elric ran until the trees swallowed him. In the forest, Elric's body began to change. He could hear the roots in the ground. A vast web of them, pulsing, breathing, whispering. They welcomed him, calling him kin. The trees leaned toward him. The soil grew warm where he walked. And his body split. From beneath his back, spinal antlers erupted. Not quite bone, not quite root. His teeth blackened and multiplied. His ribs opened outward, and tiny saplings curled from the gaps, dripping with milky fluid. Worse. He wanted it. He felt powerful. Whole. The root inside him was awakening, and it had been waiting. That night, the fields bloomed beyond imagining. Fruit grew threefold. Cattle birthed twins. The village rejoiced. But then the nightmares began. Everyone dreamed of bone trees. Of fields of screaming crops. Of eyes blooming on vines, and a great mouth beneath the orchard. They said Elric had returned to the village, but changed. They said he watched them from the orchard's edge, covered in bark and ribs. Weeks passed. Children disappeared first. Drawn toward the woods. Then the sick. The old. No bodies were found, but bones began appearing in the fields again, as if the earth was vomiting what it couldn't digest. And every week, the harvest grew richer. The villagers said nothing. They remembered the old stories. Lona vanished last, her house empty, the floorboard stained with white sap. When someone finally dared to enter the orchard at night, they returned raving mad. Eyes missing, tongue shredded, but what he scratched into the church floor before dying chilled the village to silence. He's blooming. 1 year later, no outsiders would enter Witherborough. The roads were covered with strange lichen. Maps no longer listed the area. Drones failed to return. Satellite footage showed that the orchard had grown, swallowing the village whole. What remained were trees. Pale, bone trunks, ribs for branches, mouths where apples should be. At the center, a single massive tree, over 30 meters tall, bark like knotted spine and ivory teeth. Its base resembled a ribcage, and inside it, something moved. Something watched. Elric, or what he had become, had not died. He had flowered. And below the roots, something even older stirred. The seed had not come from this earth. It was found. It was fed. It had returned to bloom through him. As the wind blew across the orchard, the trees sang in creaking voices. The soil was always flesh. The harvest always hungry. Now the garden is awake. Story 3. Beautiful Inside. The year was 2146, and beauty was no longer bought with creams or scalpels, but with the soul itself. Eden Laboratories had revolutionized self-image. Their treatment, Elon Vital, allowed clients to reveal their inner self. Not metaphorically, but biologically. With a proprietary serum known only as Solix, skin, fat, and muscle were broken down, then restructured using neuroempathic mapping. The body molded itself according to the patient's true self-perception, revealing the soul's shape in flesh. It became the hottest trend in high society. And for Vera Kane, it was the next evolution of her brand. She had over 80 million followers across all networks. Known for her crystal-clear skin, platinum features, and surgically perfected face, she built her empire on ideals of purity through authenticity. So when she announced she would undergo Elon Vital live, unfiltered, uncut, she broke every viewership record in the Western world. Day 1. Her followers expected beauty. And that's what they got. At first. The first transformation revealed a version of Vera that shimmered. Her cheekbones were higher, eyes violet like gemstones, her skin glowed faintly like polished pearl. The audience wept, raved, declared her divine. "My soul," she said on stream, "feels lighter already." But Solix didn't stop working after one treatment. It continued evolving the subject for days, sometimes weeks, until the deepest self was fully visible. By day 3, Vera's eyes had gone entirely white. No irises. No sclera. "You look so spiritual," her fans commented. But behind the cameras, Vera trembled. Her voice was slower. Her memory splintered. Day 5. Her arms elongated. Not artistically, but wrong. Joints appeared where none should be. Her skin became semi-translucent, revealing thick cords of something underneath that pulsed with a second rhythm not in sync with her heart. The comments turned panicked. Viewers begged her to stop. But she didn't. She couldn't. Eden Laboratories insisted the procedure was irreversible mid-cycle. Vera began dreaming of mirrors. In them, she didn't move. The reflection did. One night she woke up whispering a name she didn't know. Lina. She'd never met a Lina. That same morning, a hidden tattoo surfaced on her hip. A name carved in flesh, Lina. She had no memory of it. A hacker broke into Eden's private data logs and leaked a report titled Soul Integrity Anomalies. The file mentioned Vera by name. Her transformation was displaying layer bleed. This meant her self-image was not singular. Instead of one soul structure, Vera had multiple psychic bodies layered atop each other. And they were peeling away like an onion. Each layer had its own voice. On day 8, she live-streamed for 7 minutes in complete silence, her mouth twitching while the words appeared as subtitles on screen, though she never typed them. She made me. She buried me. Now she wears my name. Vera's body became unrecognizable by day 11. The silhouette remained humanoid, but the face fractured down the center like porcelain under stress. One half appeared as her childhood self. Bruised, tear-streaked. The other half was entirely smooth and featureless. She didn't eat. She didn't sleep. But the stream never stopped. Each night, the room around her grew darker, as if light itself were being consumed. Her viewers decreased. Only the obsessed remained. They made compilations. Theories. Rituals. One fringe group began worshipping her new form, claiming she had become a soul host. A vessel for layered consciousness. They called her the Oracle of Flesh. Eden Laboratories scrubbed their site clean. No mention of Elon Vital remained. Their CEO was found dead in his private suite. Eyes hollowed out, but no sign of violence. Only a smear of pearl-colored fluid on the mirror above him, smeared into one word. Returned. Vera's stream was quietly pulled from all platforms. Except it kept playing. On private nodes. Hidden corners of the net. The footage was different. She wasn't alone anymore. In the final stream, reportedly recorded on day 21, Vera stared into the camera, her head tilting like a curious child. Her face split open slowly, revealing rows of identical faces within. Each one mouthing a different word. I'm Vera. No, I am. She took me. She made me better. We're all her now. Then the screen glitched. Recovered audio showed a voice, static layered over static, whispering. You cannot reveal what was never meant to be seen. The screen went black. Until now, no one knows what Vera Kane truly was. Some say she was the first of something new. A being made from stacked trauma, layered selves, all given flesh. Others believe she never existed at all. Just a shape, formed from billions of people watching, wanting, believing. But sometimes, late at night, her stream reappears for a few seconds. Her eyes stare directly at you. And in the dark, your own reflection moves just a second too late. Story 4. Larval State. In 2039, a biotech startup named Novogenics unveiled what they called Project Ascension. A revolutionary gene therapy said to unlock the dormant code of human evolution. It was marketed not as enhancement, but as correction. A way to fix the limitations left behind by eons of flawed development. The therapy, a blend of CRISPR-guided retroviral injections and synthetic stem cells, rewrote dormant portions of human DNA. Sequences long believed to be junk, with proprietary genetic ignition sequences drawn from ancient biological matter unearthed in an Arctic sinkhole. No one questioned where the samples came from. They only heard the tagline. Evolve. Ascend. Awaken what was always meant to be. Novogenics offered free treatments to influencers, investors, athletes, soldiers, the chosen few. For the first month, results were miraculous. The early adopters were known as ascendants. They ran faster, saw clearer, healed faster. IQ scores soared. Reflexes doubled. They began outperforming humans, even other genetically enhanced ones, by impossible margins. Dr. Fiona Rees, head of neurological integration at Novogenics, conducted an interview saying, "We're not adding anything foreign. We're just flipping the switch evolution forgot." After 2 months, they moved into stage 2 trials. Mass distribution. Novogenics opened clinics in 20 countries. Black market versions flourished in 10 more. But that's when the first reports began. A diver in Okinawa with ascension therapy drowned. Not because of equipment failure, but because his mouth had sealed shut like a newborn's. Doctors tried to operate. The tissue regrew mid-surgery. Inside, his tongue had retracted into the skull. His vocal cords had withered. 3 weeks later, a marathon runner collapsed as her feet flattened into webbed pads, bones visibly softening. Novogenics called them anomalies. The afflicted, ascendants, called it the molt. By month 3, nearly 1 in 20 ascendants began experiencing peeling. Their skin sloughing off in large, translucent sheets. Beneath, not raw flesh, but a milky membrane began to form. Their voices disappeared. Their eyes grew wider. Their bones became semi-cartilaginous. Most horrifying, their bodies curled inward, fetal-like, as if preparing for some kind of transformation. Or worse, a return. Hospitals struggled to contain them. Some were kept in containment tanks, their bodies suspended in nutrient fluid. Others vanished before any scan could be completed. Novogenics denied all. But whistleblowers leaked internal memos. One read, "They're not evolving. They're devolving. Regressing." But to what? Another, "This isn't new code. It's a reawakening. And it's not human." Geologist Dr. Marta El-Qasim, who had supplied Novogenics with ancient biological samples, vanished in March. But before she did, she released a file called the Fossil Tapes. In it, she showed high-resolution scans of primordial embryos found deep beneath Arctic permafrost, encased in an amber-like resin. The embryos weren't human. But they weren't alien either. She called them pre-human. False starts of evolution. Branches pruned by nature. One embryo matched the molted ascendants exactly. Marta's voice, cracked and desperate, recorded the final note. "This isn't our future. It's our predecessor. We're just reactivating the DNA of a failed form. One that never died. Because something preserved it." By month 5, the public turned against Novogenics. The company folded. Executives vanished or were found dead in their homes, their bodies twisted into curled, waxy husks. But the gene therapy had spread too far. Molting became a global phenomenon. Governments instituted quarantine zones. Entire cities like Nuuk and Vilcabamba were sealed off. Drones dropped food and chemical suppressants, but nothing stopped the transformation once it began. Inside the zones, reports emerged of harvest lights. Soft glows that appeared in the sky, hovering like auroras. Every time the light descended, hundreds of molted figures disappeared overnight. No struggle. No remains. In footage captured from drones, figures, enormous, indistinct, organic, floated just at the edge of visibility. They looked less like beings and more like wombs with purpose. Fiona Reese, riddled with guilt, released the original genome map. She hadn't just flipped human DNA. The retrovirus sequence had viral glyphs matching no known species. Except the Arctic samples. Geneticists discovered a hidden instruction set, embedded in the retrovirus. Fold. Soften. Seal. Submit. Wait. It was a summoning protocol. A biological countdown. The evolution was just a beacon. Preparing the bodies as vessels. Larval forms. Vessels for what? No one could say. Not until the sky split open. 1 year after Ascension's release, they arrived. Not in ships, but as soundless geometries, descending through auroras like roots of glowing light. Their forms couldn't be filmed clearly. Every camera returned images corrupted by fractal distortion and impossible angles. All known molted individuals, now near featureless sacks of gelatinous membrane, floated upward without struggle. Billions watched, frozen, as entire cities were harvested. Then, silence. The auroras vanished. The lights retracted. The world went still. And then, all remaining molted individuals began to hum. low and wet. Vibrations that sank into bone. It wasn't random. It was language. The same phrase, heard in every hemisphere. We remember the first shape. We have returned to collect it. Fiona Reese disappeared shortly after uploading a classified Novogenics file titled Larva Null. Inside was a map. A human genome. But twisted. Inverted. It wasn't a regression. It was a reset. A backup of an original version of life seated before humanity, buried in ice and mud, waiting for intelligence to reawaken it. Novogenics didn't evolve humanity. They triggered it. In isolated labs, some surviving researchers are experimenting with counter-evolution. Trying to erase the glyphs, block the transformation. But even they know the truth. The molt is not done. We were never the final form. We were just the womb. Thank you for watching. Please like, share and subscribe for more Rogue Nightmares videos.